Bro.
Jim Jones paced back and forth in his small apartment, his heart pounding in a way that felt unfamiliar. The day had started like any other Wednesday, but something in the air felt different. It was tense, charged, like a storm was brewing. His mind was consumed with thoughts of his girlfriend, Chrissy. Their relationship had always been intense, filled with moments of passion that left him breathless. But lately, something felt off. The space between them seemed to be growing, and it made his skin crawl. Meanwhile, Chrissy was at her friend's house, enjoying the lightheartedness of the evening. The sound of laughter filled the air as she relaxed, momentarily free from the worries that usually weighed her down. The sunlight streaming through the window made her feel alive, unburdened. Yet even as she laughed along with her friends, a nagging feeling lingered in the back of her mind. Common, the man she had once loved so deeply, was back. She had tried to move on, to push him out of her life, but there was still something about him that held a strange pull over her. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't completely shake him off. As the sun set, casting an orange glow over the city, Jim's phone vibrated on the table. A message appeared on the screen, sending an uneasy shiver down his spine. Just a heads up, Common is back in town. His stomach tightened. Heat rushed to his face, his fingers clenching around the phone. He told himself it didn't matter, that he didn't care, but the uncertainty started to seep into his chest like poison. Suddenly, he felt the overwhelming need to see Chrissy, to hear the truth from her lips. Without thinking, he grabbed his keys and stormed out the door. His heart pounded harder with every step, his mind racing with questions. Would Chrissy be happy to see him? Would she reassure him? Or had he already lost her? As he drove, his emotions churned violently inside him. But when he pulled up to her friend's house, all his fears became real. There, parked outside, was a car he knew all too well, Common's. His stomach twisted. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself, but it was no use. His heart was hammering against his ribs as he threw the door open and stepped inside. The sight before him felt like a punch to the gut. There was Chrissy, sitting on the couch with Common, both of them laughing, completely at ease. Their body language was relaxed, familiar, too familiar. The way they sat close together, the way she leaned slightly toward him, it made Jim's blood boil. The laughter, once a soft murmur, now rang in his ears like a cruel joke. His voice thundered through the room. "What the hell is going on here?" Chrissy's head snapped up. The color drained from her face. She scrambled to sit up, her eyes wide with shock. "Jim." Before she could say another word, Jim cut her off. "You told me you were done with him. You swore to me." Every word was filled with pain, with betrayal. Common stood up, his hands raised as if trying to calm the situation. His face held a mix of surprise and irritation. "Man, it's not what you think." Jim's jaw clenched. "Save it. I don't need your excuses." He took a step closer, the tension in the room thick enough to choke on. His hands curled into fists at his sides. Chrissy's eyes flickered with guilt and frustration. "Jim, just listen to me." But Jim shook his head, his voice rising with every word. "I don't need to listen to anything. I can see exactly what's going on." Chrissy's voice broke as she pleaded. "I just wanted to talk to him, that's all." "I swear!" Jim let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head in disbelief. "Talking? You were laughing like nothing ever changed. Like I wasn't even in the picture." Chrissy's eyes filled with tears. Jim took one last look at her, then turned on his heel. As he stormed out, he felt something inside him crack. The laughter, the easy comfort between them, it all felt like a cruel joke, one that he was the punchline of. The door slammed behind him, a sharp finality in the sound. Outside, the cold night air hit him like a slap. His breath came out in sharp bursts, his mind spiraling. Did he ever really have a chance? Could he ever trust her again? The betrayal sat heavy in his chest, but so did the need for answers. As he drove away, he knew this was only the beginning. There was no going back, no pretending everything was fine. Love, betrayal, and the ghosts of the past had all collided, and he was left to pick up the pieces. Days later, Jim and Chrissy met at a restaurant in the heart of the city. The place was buzzing with conversation and clinking glasses, but at their table, the atmosphere was anything but warm. Chrissy sat across from Jim, her expression a mix of frustration and sadness. Fast forward to another critical moment. Jim finally proposed to Chrissy in Miami. Fans thought this was his way of making up for years of hesitation. But to everyone's surprise, Chrissy didn't seem thrilled. Instead of jumping for joy, she seemed hesitant. This only fueled more speculation about their relationship. Despite this grand gesture, Jim still didn't follow through with a wedding. Fans started wondering, if they weren't going to get married now, would they ever? What exactly was keeping them together? Their relationship has never been conventional. They don't follow the usual expectations of what a couple should do. Some people believe that's what makes their bond strong. Others think it's a sign that they aren't meant to be together. But through all the ups and downs, one thing is clear. They have stayed by each other's side, regardless of what the world says. As time goes on, people remain invested in their story. Fans want to know what's next for them. Will they finally tie the knot, or will they continue as they are? Chrissy and Jim's journey highlights something a lot of people struggle with: commitment, love, and personal growth. Relationships aren't just about reaching a goal, like getting married. They're about the experiences and lessons learned along the way. As Chrissy and Jim step into this new chapter of their lives, people hope they find clarity, happiness, and understanding, whatever that looks like for them. Some couples never make it to the altar, and that's okay. What really matters is whether they're happy together or not. For years, Chrissy and Jim have been figuring out what works for them, rather than just doing what society expects. As they continue this journey, fans watch closely, hoping to see them find the peace they deserve. The truth is, love isn't always a straight path. Sometimes it's messy and complicated. What's most important is staying true to yourself while navigating the challenges of a relationship. Jim and Chrissy's story is still unfolding. Every day, their relationship shifts, revealing new highs and lows. Their public appearances and interactions add to the ongoing conversation about whether they will ever get married. But beneath it all, there's a deeper issue: family. Jim's mother has always been a major presence in their relationship. She's a reminder of how difficult it can be to balance love and family. Sometimes the weight of it all can feel suffocating. Both Jim and Chrissy have changed over the years. They've learned from their mistakes, their victories, and their losses. It's not just about love. It's about respect, communication, and understanding. They have to ask themselves, what do they really want for their future? Do they see themselves as life partners, or is marriage something that just isn't necessary for them? The idea of marriage comes with a lot of expectations, and Chrissy and Jim are figuring out how to navigate those in their own way. There's pressure from family, fans, and the entertainment industry, making it even harder to make decisions that feel right for them. At the end of the day, love doesn't look the same for everyone. Some people follow the traditional path, while others create their own rules. As Jim and Chrissy continue their journey, one thing is clear: they will do things on their own terms, no matter what the world expects. "We need to talk," she said, her voice calm but firm. "About your mother." Jim sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Chrissy, she's my mom. You have to understand where she's coming from." Chrissy shook her head, her eyes flashing. "I can't keep pretending everything is okay. She disrespects me at every turn, Jim. This isn't just about you and me. It's about the way she treats me." Before Jim could respond, his phone buzzed on the table. He glanced down, and his face hardened. It was a message from his mother, filled with insults aimed at Chrissy. His stomach twisted. Chrissy leaned forward, her voice rising. "This is exactly what I mean. She won't stop trying to come between us." Before she could say more, a familiar figure appeared beside their table. Jim's mother, the tension exploded like a snapped wire. "You think you can just come in here and take my son away from me?" Jim's mother spat. Chrissy shot to her feet. "I'm not trying to take him away, but I deserve respect." Jim stood up, trying to calm things down, but Chrissy's next words hit like a challenge. "You let her control everything, Jim. That's why this will never work." In a flash of anger, Jim's hand struck her cheek. The restaurant fell silent. Gasps rippled through the room. Chrissy froze, her face stunned. Tears welled in her eyes as she stared at him, pain and disbelief written all over her face. Jim's heart pounded as realization crashed over him. He had crossed a line he could never uncross. "Is this who you really are?" Chrissy whispered. Her voice wavered, but her determination did not. Jim watched as she turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, breathless, the weight of his actions crushing him. Chrissy looked at Jim with sadness in her eyes. Her voice was quiet but firm as she murmured, "You chose her over me." At that moment, Jim felt the weight of his actions. His heart sank as he realized how much he had hurt her. Without another word, Chrissy turned around and walked away, leaving Jim standing there, speechless. Before he could say anything, she cut him off with a calm but serious tone. "Jim, you need to figure out what you really want. I won't be caught in a love triangle with your mother." The restaurant around them was silent. Everything that had happened, the loyalty, the betrayal, the painful decisions, suddenly felt overwhelming. Dan, who had been watching, felt anger bubbling inside him. He couldn't believe what was happening. Meanwhile, Chrissy took a deep breath, steadying herself. Then, in a move that no one expected, she got down on one knee. Jim's heart started racing. This was a moment that would change everything. He knew he had to make a decision. Would he stand by Chrissy, or would he let his loyalty to his family get in the way of their love? The tension in the air was thick as he processed everything that had led them here. Back in 2019, Chrissy and Jim were at a major event, the Deuce-a-Palooza at the Barclays Center in New York City. Their relationship had already been through a lot by then. After being together for 18 years, people expected them to be married, but it never happened. By 2021, Chrissy seemed tired of waiting. During an episode of Love and Hip Hop Family Reunion, she shocked everyone by saying she no longer wanted to get married. She explained, "You want me to be this loving, passionate, caring woman, but when you come home, you're mean, you're cold, and you're distant." Jim, clearly caught off guard, tried to explain himself. He admitted that he had been afraid of marriage. "I've always been the man in my family. My only focus has been making money and providing. I don't want you to think I'm selfish because I love you more than anything." But Chrissy wasn't convinced. She had spent years waiting, and she was done hoping for something that might never happen. Chrissy later talked about why their engagement lasted so long without a wedding. She had been off the show for 7 years, and when she returned, producers wanted her back because they believed she was a key part of the series. Reflecting on her relationship, she admitted, "We're in a good place now, but I used to think marriage was the natural next step. Now I know it's not for everyone. We're happy, and that's what matters." Over the years, they had faced many challenges. In 2016, Chrissy addressed fans who questioned why she was still engaged. She said she wasn't willing to get married until both she and Jim were completely ready. "People move at different speeds. I don't want to rush into something and then end up in a divorce. That's why I'm taking my time." One of the biggest turning points in their relationship was when Chrissy moved to Miami to live with Jim. This moment, which played out on Love and Hip Hop, was a major deal for fans. Many believed it showed she was fully committed to the relationship, despite not having a ring on her finger.